If it had a mind, you could reason with it. No one believes the truth.
Tell him no!
Until now.
She did it for me.
Justin, Erik, Nathan, and Joseph, tell us what to do.
The big hair that turns into the cockroach, and you are listening to Hysteria Continues.
And welcome back to the Hysteria Continues, and this time we're heading to New York, or actually kind of Los Angeles, pretending to be New York, with Maniac Cop. And it's one that's been requested lots, and I think possibly Austin, we have Austin Stenberg, we're just discussing off air that last time you were on the show, Austin, was prom night to Hello Mary Lou. So this was your suggestion, wasn't it? It's kind of one that we're kind of well overdue to cover, I think.
Yeah, I was initially afraid it wasn't really a slasher, but then I watched it and I'm like, close enough.
Well, it was certainly it was meant to be kind of, well, without getting to background already, but I think it was looking into some background on it. It was meant to be, it was designed as the next big slasher franchise, wasn't it? So I think it's close enough fit for us to cover on the podcast. But good to have you back, Austin.
Good to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I think I think Rob was the first guest we've had on these video podcasts.
So you're the big number two.
Speaking of number twos, I did watch Drive-In Massacre.
Well, yes, that is a special movie. But yeah, good to have you aboard again. And we'll be talking all things Maniac Cop shortly. But I say we're just this is the first main show we've recorded for almost 2 months, because we had a backlog of stuff that we've been putting out. So we're all slightly kind of not out of sorts exactly, but we're kind of dusting ourselves off, aren't we, Erik? I can see I can see some white stuff on your shirt, so I assume that's dust.
Although I am still recovering from the bullying I got when I was on holidays. I was supposed to be having a lovely, relaxing holiday on a beach in Portugal, and all I got was horrible messages from Justin Kurzweil.
Saying what?
You told me that I only drank girly drinks, and that I was a perfume ponce. Oh, I was wondering when he was going to get to that.
Well, if the cap fits, Erik. But I said there's loads of kind of prize fighters and rugby stars that drink gin and tonic and things with girly.
Yeah, they're not girly.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, you're on holiday, Erik, so I know normally you're drinking stiff ones, aren't you, around the back, whiskey and the like. But when you're on holiday, you can do what you want. Let your hair down.
And what a fine head of hair it is.
Mm. So, Erik, you look like, because I'm supposed to be the goth of the podcast, but there you are, all in black, looking like a mad monk.
And I forgot to set up my light, so I'm just relying on the natural light coming in. So I'm probably a bit pasty.
Ah, yes, coming through yonder window like a pre-Raphaelite.
But yeah, I'm all in black.
Looks like Joseph is too.
I'm wearing a Godzilla shirt. I can't really see it, but yeah. It's got some color to it.
Nathan, you're resplendent in purple or mauve.
Pretty in purple.
Thank you. I thought I'd try, a happy color.
Erik, what are you drinking there? Is it
That's like actually a monster. It's a Monster energy drink, but in a glass, so that I can put ice in it.
Okay.
So men drink manly energy drink realness.
It looks like a mimosa.
Well, what are you drinking, Justin, out of your girly mug that has flowers on it?
I'm drinking. It hasn't got flowers. It's actually got cakes.
Yeah, well, there you go.
It's a ginger tea, actually.
Ginger tea. And what butch athletes drink ginger tea?
Well, many people do. It's very good for all sorts of medical things. So yeah, most top athletes drink ginger tea.
Yeah, girl athletes.
Anyway, apologies, Austin, for having to see Erik behave like that. But you've listened to the show long enough to know this is exactly the kind of thing to expect from Mad Monk Threlfall.
It's been pent up for 2 months. He's got to get it out.
It has been pent up.
But it's hardly been pent up from what we hear on those from the back the dunes and the Portugal beaches. Nothing's been pent up.
There was no dunes where I was.
Okay, the toilets. So we're covering this time Maniac Cop from 1988. So as you probably know, well, I'm sure you do know, Austin, as a listener to the show, we've kind of changed the format slightly. So going straight into the main feature. And obviously we've got quite a lot to cover. Probably we're going to spread out probably over the next few episodes some of the recently seen, because there's probably a lot to get to. But yes, Maniac Cop. So have we got a trailer?
Yeah, I think we have a trailer or a TV spot, either one.
So after this, Austin, do you want to bring us in on Maniac Cop and tell us kind of why you chose it? So I'd be interested to hear what you say. So we're playing in with a TV spot or trailer for Maniac Cop. So we'll be back after this.
There's someone out there. No one knows his name. No one knows his face.
Oh, no.
But now, the most terrifying man in the city
Officer! Officer! Oh, thank God it's you.
carries a badge.
The head was unstable and there was a deceleration injury. As in your old hanging.
You really think a cop did this? Why not?
You automatically assume that it was a police officer instead of some lunatic dressed up like a cop.
Spy Squad.
He'll kill again. He enjoys killing.
He strikes without cause, without mercy.
You may be getting information from inside the department.
That means he is one of us.
You see a cop, you cross to the other side of the street.
You're not gonna get me.
Anybody who wants to shoot a cop nowadays got one hell of an excuse.
Since when is my personal life any of your business?
Since your wife was found dead in the motel room.
You gotta be wrong.
You want to see the pretty picture?
Keep your hands where I can see them. Hold on, I didn't do any of this.
When a cop turns killer, you have the right to remain silent forever. Maniac Cop.
I was pretty late to Maniac Cop. I caught it about the time that Robert Zadar passed away, which I think was about a decade ago or so. And I'll never forget, I just was like, what the hell is this movie? And I was like, oh yeah, this is the guy who did Maniac, which is great. Let me check this out. And I just fell in love instantly, like perfect film for me right away. I remember shortly after that, I told my mom, who we share a similar taste in movies. I'm like, you got to watch this. So had her watch it. And I remember a few minutes in, she goes, wait a second, it's Robert. I'm like, what do you mean it's Robert? And she's like, oh, Robert Zadar, my friend. And I'm like, what do you mean? You knew Robert Zadar? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, of all the people. So she moved to LA early 90s. She knew random B-list or Z-list celebrities. Like probably the most famous was David Keith.
The white one? Because there's David Keith and then there's Keith David.
No, David Keith, Firestarter.
Yeah, and I get them mixed up all the time.
But yeah, so that was funny. And I'm like, I can't believe you told me you knew Robert Zadar after I saw this movie and after he's passed away. This is just tragic. But yeah, so also between him and Bruce Campbell, I'm not sure there's been a movie ever that has a higher chin to face ratio amongst all the actors. Like, oh, so beautiful. And then the other thing is, about this time last year, they were doing a screening of Maniac at the New Beverly here in LA. And William Lustig was in attendance, and I'm not usually one to go up to somebody and say anything, but I was like, I got to ask this question, so I went up to him, introduced myself, said, I love your movies, like, I'm so happy you're here, and he was so nice, so kind, and what I wanted to ask him was whether he would had any hopes of putting some of his other movies out on a Blu-ray or high definition. I know I love Relentless with Judd Nelson, Leo Rossi, the phone book killer movie. I also asked another one. It was Hit List. It's like Jan Michael Vincent, Leo Rossi again. And he told me, he said, there were some rights issues and it was never going to happen. So it's a huge bummer. But I got to watch Maniac with William Lustig. So that was pretty awesome. But sorry, my cat's in the way.
No, it's okay. Well, we welcome cats.
We
and
welcome
dogs
cats. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's how I came to Maniac Cop. And one of the other things is I had already seen all the classics like The Fog and Halloween 3 and Night of the Creeps. So I love Tom Atkins. That dude is a legend. And, not to be risque, but the dude fucks so hard. I mean, in The Fog, he fucks so hard. Halloween 3, he's drunk, he's fucking. And then I was like, well, that's not the case in Maniac Cop. He's kind of older, a little more wiser, more subdued. And then I watched the movie and I'm like, oh, he knows the first victim. And oh, he knows the reporter too, intimately. I'm like, oh, of course. So that's Tom Atkins for you. Still around, still acting, I think. So wishing him well. Let's see. I really love the score for this film, especially at the beginning. It really sets the tone. It's kind of like, it's kind of like an 80s action score, but make it spooky is how I describe it. So the score is killer. Also, you don't see a lot of quote unquote slasher movies that start with 3 kills in quick succession the way this one does. I don't know if you guys have a favorite, but mine, I just love the one where the guy is running with the handcuffs and falls into the cement.
What a way to go.
And then he tries to lift his head, and then Zadar just pushes his head right down into that cement. I love that so much. And then I also love the hard cut to the jackhammer, and then the camera kind of pans out and there's his face in the cement. And I'm just like, oh, what an awful way to go. I wonder how long that would take. I don't want to think too long about it. Another thing I love about this film is just the concept. If you think about it in a realistic sense, which is probably not good for analyzing the movie. You want to not think about it as much as possible because it starts to fall apart. But the concept is interesting. The idea that a police officer could be a serial killer and how the public would react to knowing that information. And, you see some of that red tape initially in the beginning where Richard Roundtree, Shaft, doesn't want the information out. And then Tom Atkins gets it to the press anyway. So I like that concept a lot too. I really like how it shows early 80s, or not early 80s. You could kind of contrast the late 80s New York with the early 80s New York, like something scuzzy and gross like Maniac or Nightmare. Nightmare's in a Damaged Brain. But then this is it's still scuzzy New York, but a little less so. And it does make sense because I think, as Justin alluded to earlier, most of it was filmed in Los Angeles. I think all but 3 days or something like that, which I tried looking for that in this latest rewatch, and I could not notice, but I'm really bad with that kind of stuff, so I'm sure it was obvious. Couple notes. I thought about the moment with Bruce Campbell where his wife is leaving the hotel room after finding him in bed with Teresa Mallory, and the wife gets pulled into the van. It kind of reminded me of Scream 2 with Jamie Kennedy. Pretty similar the way he was pulled in there. I also noticed for the first time on this viewing Buck Flower as one of the old guys on the TV giving an interview. I had no idea that was him, but this time it was just like, oh my God, that's him. I've seen him he's everywhere. I mean, just all over these 80s horror movies. There's a scene with Teresa Mallory when she's she's going undercover, and some guy pulls up to her car and tries to solicit sexual favors, and he asks her, are you a cop? And she says, no, I'm not. I'm sorry, what am I saying? She says, oh, you caught me. Go on home, sir, whatever. Go back to your wife and kids. And I just want to point out to anyone that if you're in America and you ask someone if they're a cop and people think they have to tell you, it's not true. They do not have to tell you. So don't believe that. It's a common misconception. I just like to let that be known. So I love the body count for this movie. Like I said, it starts off with 3 kills in quick succession, but I think there's 17 total. Shout out to Justin's review for that one. I love the cane attack. It's a vicious attack on Tom Atkins. You can see him bleeding everywhere. I love that cane attack. I love the subtle humor that's kind of present throughout. It's not overwhelming, but there's like little bits of it. My favorite part is when Bruce Campbell is leaving the police station after the Maniac Cop massacre, and he tells 2 cops to get in the ground, and then after he leaves, one of them says, "You got to go after him," and they said, "Oh, you heard him. He didn't do it." So, let's see. I really love the scene with Teresa Mallory, and when she's handcuffed to that one police officer, and that's just a crazy scenario to imagine, having to get away from this giant brooding hulk of a man, and then you're tied to another person. I love that scene so much. And then she throws the chair out the window. I thought that was a really smart move on her part. So that's one of my favorite scenes for sure. One thing I noticed this time is Captain Ripley, played by William Smith. I thought that was Charles Napier for this entire, the last decade. I had no idea that was William Smith. I thought they looked so much alike, and then I realized it's probably because Charles Napier is in Maniac Cop 2. So
well, Bill Smith usually has a mustache, so it's really hard to pick him out in this film.
Yeah, that's a good point. I also love just the reckless stunt work in this. I just feel like there were so many times where I'm like, that just looks dangerous. Like the scene at the end where when they go into the water with the van, and you can see who's supposed to be Bruce Campbell on the side, hanging onto the van, and he's way too close to that van and doing a backflip into the water. They did some really dangerous stunts in this, and they came out great. And I miss those days when all the stunts weren't CGI, but I can see why, because it looks very dangerous. And then I was curious if you guys had seen any of the sequels. I almost always just go back to Maniac Cop 1. It's my favorite, but this time I did watch Maniac Cop 2 and 3 the other day. 3 is still awful, but I noticed that, this is one website, but on Letterboxd, Maniac Cop 2 has a higher overall rating than Maniac Cop 1 by 0.1 of a star. So I was curious, will you guys have any thoughts on any of the sequels? And
I'm sure we'll get to the sequels eventually. I don't remember them, to be honest.
I think personally I would prefer slightly part 2 to part 1, if I'm being quite honest. Part 2 feels more slasher movie to me. I don't think part 3 is awful either. It's definitely the weakest of the 3. And there was huge production problems on it with William Lustig being fired from it and somebody else coming in to take over, but I thought it was okay for a film that was so troubled in production. But I think, I really like part 2.
I love Robert Davi's a good cold actor of the 80s and 90s. That's the second one cast is pretty stacked. It's got Claudia Christian.
Leo Rossi's in it, of course.
Leo Rossi. He's in almost every Bill Lustig movie. It's so funny.
Yeah.
But it's funny you say that you thought Maniac Cop 2 is more of a slasher. I thought it was more of an action film than the first one, personally. But
I think with Maniac Cop 2, the Maniac Cop himself is a bit more zombie-like. He's more like Jason, and his face is kind of disfigured and kind of like Jason from part 6 onwards. And that's what gives it more of a slasher vibe for me, personally.
Totally. And then 3 was bad, but it wasn't so bad that I'm like, I can see why Lustig walked out or was fired or whatever.
I was trying to think. I don't think I've seen the sequels, because I covered Maniac Cop relatively recently on Hysteria Lives within the last 6 months. So it's one I'll probably get around to relatively soon.
I saw in your review on Hysteria Lives that you were talking about how it's kind of up in the air whether he's alive or dead. Well, he's alive, but he can take bullets to the head, which is they kind of try to clear that up a little bit in 2, but not really.
That's to be honest, that's the thing that kind of I really enjoyed the movie. I watched it again today, and I think it's a lot of fun. But it does feel like it wasn't really. The script wasn't really polished. They didn't really think things through, because, like you say, the whole Maniac Cop, is he alive? Is he dead? He's like, when he attacks Theresa Mallory in that, and she says she could feel his basically hands were cold through his gloves. He got shot. He couldn't have been shot even if he had a bulletproof vest on. He was shot in the head. So, but also the kind of woolly thinking around everything about how he's supposed to be trying to get revenge, but he starts off by killing all these innocent people, as they do kind of point out in the movie. So kind of what the thought process was behind it, I'm not entirely sure.
That was him trying to undermine the mayor, because the mayor was his ultimate target. I think he was trying to create chaos for the mayor. That's what I got from it anyway.
Not a slasher movie at all, but I just randomly rewatched Jack Reacher the other day. Not the movie with Tom Cruise. I don't know why, but the movie starts with an assassination, or what looks like a random spat of killings from a sniper, but it was really just as a smoke screen because they were going after one person. So I kind of wonder if it was something like that, where he wants to start that as a people, so that, I mean, I don't know. He was trying to get to the mayor and make it not, but then I don't see. It doesn't make any sense. You scrutinize it and then it just falls apart. So,
well, especially the fact he's kind of like is able to not once but twice walk into a police station and kill people. So, and he also kills the mayor and the other main cop in very quick succession, doesn't he? So that feels a little bit anticlimactic to some degree. I mean, I think it's a great film. I think it's a lot of fun, and Bruce Campbell's great in this, although he's kind of funny in so much he's not funny, isn't he? He's kind of like he's playing it very straight. The other plot hole that I put in my review, and I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on it, who was this random woman calling up sort of his wife and saying that he's a killer?
That was the girl with the brace on her leg, the woman.
She was trying. It was her.
Yeah, it's very
okay.
The way they handle it, it's very like if you sneeze, you'll miss that plot point.
Tom Atkins says when he's in the cell with Bruce Campbell, he says that it's got to be someone in personnel that has access to your file. They know he's been to therapy, I guess, and he's having like marital problems. I mean, it's tenuous. It's blink and you miss it.
No, that clears that up. So thank you, because I mean that was kind of, I just thought it was far too random. Although again, it didn't really. Again, I wasn't entirely sure what, obviously she was in love with him, with the Maniac Cop, but then decides she doesn't like the fact he's killing these innocent people, but she's still covering up for him. So it's just a bit, I just don't think it's just the movie's strong suit is its plot, because it doesn't really make a great deal of sense. But I kind of guess if you just disengage your brain and go with it as a fun late 80s slasher action movie, then there's a lot worse out there.
Yeah, as slasher movie fans, we're well used to watertight plots and logical thinking.
Yeah, but usually things are a little bit more straight A to Z, aren't they? They kind of you kind of pretty much kind of know what you're going to get, kind of story beats through a lot of these kind of similar movies. Whereas this does take some kind of wild turns, which it just feels a little bit too haphazard. It's almost like they hadn't really thought it through. Which is kind of like what I saw from some of the reviews when it came out, that people did like it generally, but found that it didn't really have much logic to it. But so Austin, I mean, obviously you chose it for us, and so you're a fan of the movie. But I was going to ask you said your mom knew Robert Dazar. What did she say about him?
It's been almost a decade since we talked about it. I need to ask her again. I can't remember what she said, but because I saw something the other day about some people said he kind of seemed like an asshole, but then I heard the opposite from a couple other people in interviews. So I'm not quite entirely sure what to think.
Okay, right. Okay. Well, let's go. Well, thank you, Austin. Let's open this up. So Erik, are you ready to go wide open? Just like summer memories. What are your thoughts on Maniac Cop?
Well, I've got one tiny bit of trivia for it, and that is that George Buck Flower's nephew is Orlando Bloom.
Is he? No, he's not. Oh dear.
Bloom, Flower.
You see, he caught me out there because I just didn't realise haven't recorded properly for 2 months.
My jokes are so subtle.
Well, not that. I just kind of, it's, sometimes like you say, like when you get a hangover and say, I'm never drinking again, but you forget how bad it is. It's a bit like your joke of the week. Was that it though?
No, I've got another joke of the week for you. I'm spoiling you this week. I've got the Maniac Cop Blu-ray here from Arrow. It never shows up focus-wise on my webcam, sorry. But the tagline on the back, I'm not sure if it's in good taste or not. It says, "Police brutality never felt so good," which is a bit of an odd thing to put on a package. This is from 2011, so maybe times have changed in the last 14 years. Yeah, I really like Maniac Cop as well. As Austin was saying, I'm not sure if it's a slasher movie or even if it's a horror movie, because to me it always feels like a kind of a crime or cop movie of the late 80s. It feels like a Lethal Weapon type of film with more of a murder spree interspersed within it. Actually, the film that it kind of reminds me of is 10 to Midnight, which I know we've covered as a slasher, and that's the kind of vibe I get from it. So it's not Friday the 13th or Halloween, but I think there's probably enough of a slasher element. I mean, there's lots of scenes set in a police station, lots of the characters are cops, there's guns, there's car chases. It just feels quite un-horror-like to me. And I mean, the whole series has that vibe, but I think, as I said, 2 and 3 maybe feel more slasherish because the character is more overtly supernatural in the sequels. I love the who's who cast of cult actors that we've been talking about. Tom Atkins, and I love that Tom Atkins' character, spoiler alert, kind of ends up as kind of a Janet Leigh in Psycho bit of casting, because he's killed about 2/3 of the way through the film when he's being set up as the lead all the way through. So his death scene was a real surprise. Even watching it again this week, I'd forgotten that he gets offed and thrown out of a window, smashes onto a car sort of 3/4 of the way through the film or whatever it is. And great to see Bruce Campbell playing it straight. I don't think I've ever seen him in a non-goofy role. And I thought he was really quite good. Richard Roundtree there also. Cameos by Sam Raimi. Danny Hicks from Evil Dead 2 in there also. Bill Lustig himself playing a motel manager, which I think he did in Maniac as well. Behind the scenes, you have Larry Cohen writing and producing, and James Glickenhaus, who did The Exterminator, is an exec producer. So with all that exploitation talent, you might be expecting something maybe a little more grindhousey than this actually is. And Austin, you made me think twice about this now, because it might be just the fact that New York has changed so much from the early 80s to the late 80s that gave it more of a gloss. But certainly this is definitely a more mainstream product from Bill Lustig, or from, I suppose, Larry Cohen as well. It's a big sort of step into the mainstream, I think, for Bill Lustig when you compare it with something like Maniac, because this doesn't wallow in gore, and it's quite sort of restrained. But as you guys know, I like mainstream stuff. I like a bit of polish. The film is a brisk 84 minutes, which is really quite welcome. Likeable characters, I thought. Enough incident to keep things ticking over. But as I said, I just, whenever I watch Maniac Cop, it never feels like a horror movie to me. It feels more of a kind of action cop movie that was sort of typical in the late 80s. Just the fact that this one has that unstoppable killer, as Justin was saying, it's kind of vague as to whether he's alive or dead, or is a zombie, or if he's real, because he seems to take a lot of damage, and he survives the truck going into the sea at the end. But yeah, I think the aim of the project probably was to make something a bit more multiplex friendly, and I don't necessarily think they're selling out by doing it. It still feels. It feels very 80s. But it feels to me very influenced by things like Lethal Weapon and 48 Hours and those type of movies. Less than it does have influence of Maniac or Vigilante in there. So yeah, for me, it's a big thumbs up. I think it's a better cop movie, crime movie, than it is a horror movie. But I do like it, and I do like both the sequels as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Eric. Nathan, how about you?
Yes, Maniac Cop isn't one that I guess I've revisited very often. I think I'm kind of see what Erik is saying. I do feel like maybe the first half feels more like a horror movie. Maybe the second half to me feels more like a cop, action film. And you guys know, I guess those are not necessarily my favorite kind of movies, but that doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy it, because I did very much. I mean, it's got that fantastic opening scene where the woman is running to the cop for help and being chased, and then of course the cop kills her. And I thought that was a great scene, a very great moment in it. I was really happy to see Marcia Carr from Killer Workout, in a kind of a small role here, but as soon as I saw her, I'm like, oh my God, it's Rhonda. and I was very excited.
Nathan?
No. See, I guess somehow they got a boom mic in this one that wasn't muffled.
Wow.
I don't know. Yeah, it's magical to me that I could hear her now. Yeah, I think Bruce Campbell is, a good lead, even though he's a cheater. And I'm like, hey, I know you and your wife were having issues, but come on now.
She looked like a bit of a battle axe, in fairness.
Eric.
Well, I mean, she did pull a gun on them, but then of course she suffers a bad fate, which is, tragic. Robert Zadar is great as the cop. And for me, I don't know why. Well, obviously I do know why, because it's a killer cop, but I'm always going to compare this to Psycho Cop, which, I adore Psycho Cop. It's definitely just an out and out slasher, but the first one, like you guys, I was very shocked at the fate of Tom Atkins' character, because again, like I thought he was going to be one of the main characters, and he is in a lot of movies. He has played the cop role before and survived plenty. So I guess I wasn't quite expecting that to happen. And like Austin was saying, the stunts in it are really good, and they're probably so good because they are so dangerous. That's what makes them look much more realistic. Yeah, I would say that overall, even though like the cop movies are not necessarily my favorite, I still really enjoyed this one because it's still got like an amazing body count. Like Austin was saying, 17. I mean, it's like kills are going on all the time. Oh, and I loved his weapon. The like
I'm sure you did, you dirty little trollop.
How dare you? You are like it. I don't know, some word, my honor. You're imputing my honor. You're something, my honor. I don't know. The big words are hard for me. Yeah, it's great. And the tagline on the VHS box was "You have the right to remain silent forever," right?
Yes,
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, because that's one of my favorite taglines. I think it's really good. Couldn't remember if it was that or Psycho Cop, but yeah, I think it was Maniac Cop. And I mean, again, great cast of characters. There's just so many familiar faces in it playing, small roles. And I mean, I really can't think of much negative to say, because even the cop parts I thought were really entertaining. So yeah, thumbs up.
Excellent. Okay. And Joseph, how about you?
Yeah, like you guys said, Maniac Cop is a really good movie, but it's flawed to the point that it really can frustrate you. For starters, I thought the characters are kind of ciphers, really. I mean, none of them are unlikable and all of them are watchable, but we don't really know enough about any of them to really care what happens to them. At least I didn't. And often it feels like important information that would have aided in suspense was either left out or completely forgotten. Like we said, that phone call to Bruce Campbell's wife where, someone's telling her that he's the one responsible for all the killings. It's hinted at that it's that disabled policewoman. But like I said, if you sneezed, you'd miss that plot point. And Campbell's wife, she's killed moments later and it's never resolved. No one mentions it again. I think the title character is another frustration of mine. I clocked this. We know zip about Matt Cordell until the 50-minute mark. And when they reveal him to be the killer, they do so with like newspaper clippings and all this stiff didactic dialogue and these hazy flashbacks that has no dialogue. And it's very disjointed, in my opinion. I don't think it would have made much or a millimeter's difference if they cut that out and just never revealed the killer's identity at all. Also, until the final 10 or 15 minutes, the movie just feels like it needs a booster shot. They wisely kind of decide not to fetishize the guns of the cop character, and they have him using like blades or a billy club or even his bare hands, but it often kind of like happens right after we just see him appearing in front of the victims, with them making no attempt to fight back or run away. I think this movie really needed a good chase scene. Having said all that, I still like the movie, but I don't love it. I think what works best is Larry Cohen's, his subtly kind of sardonic script and how the world in the movie is kind of slightly off tilt in regards to realism. I kind of like that. And I can't really help but wonder, if the movie would have had more pep to it if he had directed it instead of Lustig, who for me at least seems to be kind of struggling with some of the odd story beats that Coen is often lauded for. I think the movie looks great and the score is amazing. And you've got Bruce Campbell, Tom Atkins, Richard Roundtree, Big Bill Smith. And I didn't spot him, but apparently boxing legend Jake LaMotta is in a Blink and You'll Miss It cameo. So I must have blinked. The action movie finale that we're all talking about with Campbell literally clinging to life on the side of a van is, it's very go for broke and relentless. If for me, if only the rest of the movie could have sustained that type of tension all the way through, you'd have a minor classic. But for me, it's just minor. So I'm going to say thumbs sideways, maybe upward diagonal.
Okay. Oh, well, fair enough. I'm just enjoying Austin's cat, who obviously wants to be demanding to be on
What's
the
the cat
podcast,
think of the
sort of running
movie?
past the camera.
What's your cat's name, Austin?
I didn't name her, but her name is Sparkles.
Oh.
It's short for Lady Glitter Sparkles. Again, I did not name her.
I have a friend who had a dog called Sparkles, and her boyfriend refused to call him Sparkles in public. She'd call him Sparky. Because apparently Sparkles is too girly, Justin. You'd probably accuse him of having a girly dog.
Oh, Erik, let it go. Let it go. Anyway, that's probably one of your favourite songs, isn't it, from one of the musicals you listen to?
I don't listen to musical. I don't even know what musical that's from.
I love daiquiris and pina coladas, Erik.
Do you like getting caught in the rain, Austin?
Not particularly.
Well, I just got a couple of extra thoughts to add. One of the things that did make me laugh was that Lauren Landon as Officer Teresa Mallory screamed. She's supposed to be this undercover cop, but she screams more than any other scream queen in any other horror film I've ever seen. So basically, anyone says even something small happens, she screams the place down, and I just thought it was hilarious. And also, she has goes through the whole movie with her hair crimped as well, which I thought was fun.
It is 1988.
It is 1988, yes. But I would have thought you would have she must have been carrying crimpers around with her, because I don't think crimpers last that long. But she kind of went undercover as kind of a sex worker and then carried on crimping. But so that kind of made me laugh. I did appreciate, obviously, Bruce Campbell playing it straight, because I think I don't know, I wonder what it'd been like if he'd been a bit more of an Ash kind of character in this. And I wonder why they chose for him to play that role straight. I can see what you're saying, Joseph, that it feels a bit like it's not like a Batman or something like that, but it's almost like a Marvel Comics kind of approach to things in some ways, that you got everything's about the action and the kind of the scenes rather than any of the characters. It's kind of like everyone's kind of that no one really has much in the way of character backgrounds or anything, so it's kind of quite cartoonish in that way, which isn't a problem. I think also I kind of appreciate the difference between Psycho Cop and this is obviously Robert Z'Dar doesn't speak in it. I haven't seen him in much else. Does he speak? Is he an actor, or is he more of a stuntsman?
Yeah, he's in Tango and Cash. He plays a thug in prison in that film, and he's got a lot of dialogue.
Maniac Cop does say a few words in the sequel.
Right, okay. But I thought it was interesting that you've got like the difference with Psycho Cop. He's the quipping, post-Freddy quipping, and the Maniac Cop is more the kind of Jason Voorhees style, kind of monolithic, just kind of basically he doesn't speak. And so that was obviously, and when we get into background, that's clearly where they were heading with this, was the idea of him being like a Jason Voorhees with a badge, which is what or at least one of the reviews picked up on. But overall, I kind of really enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun. I just think if the script had been a bit tighter, and it made more sense, then I could have got behind it a bit more. But I'm very curious to see the sequels. So I'm glad we finally covered it on the show, Austin. So thank you. And should we talk about some background? So Austin, you said you had some kind of background on the film Night Stalker, which is the film that Robert Z'Dar made that brought him to the attention of the people behind this movie.
Yeah, it's a decent movie. I think it's like you can watch it on YouTube. I think it might have I saw like a Japanese VHS maybe. I don't know if there's one in UK or America. I don't know. But it's a really bad VHS rip, but the movie itself is okay, but it's mainly notable for its pedigree. Like I just really appreciated the people in it and then behind the camera.
Is it a slasher though?
No, it really leans into the police procedural aspect, which I know you guys often talk about not being. Some of you guys aren't fans of that, so I am. That's why I love 10 to Midnight, like Eric was mentioning. But yeah, it's way less of a horror film, like maybe just slight tinges. It's more of a thriller. But I call it the Temu version of Maniac Cop. It is very similar. Instead of Tom Atkins, you have Charles Napier, who plays an alcoholic cop who is tasked with finding out who's murdering a bunch of sex workers in the area. Ends up being Robert Zadar again, playing, and just like in Maniac Cop, you don't see his face for 2/3 of the movie. He's always in the shadows. He's always mumbling like under his breath, and you don't really know what he's saying until later in the film, where it's revealed that he's a combat veteran who receives training in supernatural karate that somehow compels him to murder his victims while painting their faces, muttering some vaguely Chinese mumbo jumbo. It is just truly like it's. You have to watch it to believe it. There's a scene with Charles Napier. He's getting shot at by somebody, and you think he gets shot and killed, and because he falls to the ground, and then he gets up. He's like, "Oh no, I'm fine. I was just throwing up." like it is not a good movie, but it is so entertaining, and the behind the scenes even crazier than in front. Actually, so it's also got John Goff, who in Maniac Cop he's a character actor that played Bruce Campbell's attorney that comes in and says, stop talking to my client, whatever. He also wrote The Night Stalker. He wrote Hit List, which is an 1989 Bill Lustig film that's Jan Michael Vincent's not too bad. It's good. It's hard to find, unfortunately. And then he also wrote Drive-In Massacre. So I thought that was interesting.
Wow. I didn't know that.
He plays one of the cops in Drive-In Massacre, doesn't he?
I think so, yeah.
Talk about symmetries, considering that's the last episode we did. That's weird.
Buck Flower produced as well. He produced The Night Stalker. He was one of many producers. Another one was Don Edmonds. Does that name ring a bell to anybody?
Yes. Is he Ilsa, She-Wolf of the SS or something?
Yeah, he directed, I forget which two, but he directed one, produced the other, and then he also produced Home Sweet Home.
Oh, yes.
And he directed Terror on Tour. So it's more of like a movie that you kind of just have to see to believe, and just go in with really low expectations, and you'll probably enjoy it. And that background is pretty impressive in terms, and it's crazy how much it connects with Maniac Cop. I also did see that I believe they filmed in New York for only 3 days of the production, with the rest in Los Angeles. And apparently you can see some palm trees and some mountains in the background that are like dead giveaways. But like I think I said earlier, I didn't notice. I'm really bad at that stuff. So that's about all I got.
Okay, cool. Well, Nathan, what do you have for us?
No.
Okay. Joseph, how about you?
Just a couple of things. One of them's not really even background, but I think Bruce Campbell had said that he read the script and found it ludicrous, but his bank account thanked him for taking the role. This isn't really background, but the writer Larry Cohen, he wrote and directed a movie from the early 90s called The Ambulance. And thematically, it's different from Maniac Cop, but it feels like Maniac Cop in a way. I just wonder, it's got better characterization. I just wonder, like, would Ambulance have been or would Maniac Cop have been the Ambulance if Larry Cohen had directed it, and would it have been a better movie? But just saying that, if you've not seen The Ambulance, I think you guys would like it. It's got Eric Robertson, James Earl Jones, and Eric Braeden from The Young and the Restless. It's a very fun movie. But that's all I really have.
Okay. Well, thank you, Eric.
Whoa! Sorry, I knocked over my microphone.
Your big blue
so
one.
I'm still here. You'll still get to hear my joke of the week. Don't panic, Justin. Okay. So, yeah, Bill Lustig was finding it difficult to get a project off the ground after Vigilante, which is 1982. And so he met Larry Cohen, and he offered to help him out in a proposed sequel to into Maniac, possibly. But as they were discussing things, they realised that RoboCop and Beverly Hills Cop 2 were both huge box office hits in 1987, and they jokingly came up with the title Maniac Cop as a sequel to Maniac, and that's where the whole idea sort of snowballed from. And it was actually Larry Cohen who came up with the tagline, "You have the right to remain silent forever." It wasn't Susie's record producer, although it should have been. Oh, yes. Look at Justin's disgust. The budget was $1.1 million, produced by Shapiro Glickenhaus Entertainment. And as I said, James Glickenhaus had helmed the exploitation classic The Exterminator in 1980.
I love that movie.
Yeah, it's really good, isn't it? Apparently this was written in 4 days and shot in 10, which I find it kind of hard to believe. Would a $1.1 million movie really be shot in 10 days? I thought it would have a bigger...
Well, I think half of that was like the budget for Zadar and Campbell's chin oil or whatever you need to like maintain.
But yeah, so apparently the St. Patrick's Day parade scenes were shot long before the script was even written. The idea, they came up with the idea for Maniac Cop early in 1987, I'm guessing. And so they rushed out and filmed some scenes at the New York St. Patrick's Day parade. They drafted in Sam Raimi to do some... They had 3 cameras shooting footage of the St. Patrick's Day parade with Bruce Campbell, and Sam Raimi was one of the camera people, and that's where he filmed his cameo as well. So the official shoot actually didn't start until the following August. Lorene Landon, who is the female lead, she was also in Full Moon High, The Stuff, and It's Alive 3, which are all Larry Cohen productions.
That's where I've seen her before. Thank you.
Richard Roundtree, famous, of course, for Shaft. Has anyone seen Richard Roundtree's Shaft?
Why don't you describe it to us, Erik?
He was also in Larry Cohen's Cue the Winged Serpent. Robert Zadar, apparently, before he was an actor, was a Chicago police officer, but he was also a Chippendale dancer, which is maybe where your mom saw him, Austin, sorry.
She just kept that fact from you.
Yeah, he was also one of the punks in Grotesque, the Linda Blair movie that we covered not that long ago, I think. Larry Cohen agrees with you, Joseph. You were saying he thinks that the film was pretty good in places but suffers from poor direction.
Yes.
I get the impression that Larry Cohen and Bill Lustig are not the best of friends.
Like I was saying, like Bill Lustig, he made Maniac, which is a very grim movie. I just don't feel like he was right to sit behind the director's chair. Larry Cohen should have directed it.
Yeah, as you said, Jake LaMotta who is William Lustig's uncle, has a cameo as a detective somewhere, but I don't know what Jake LaMotta looks like.
He would have been very old at this point because he was a champion in the 40s as a boxing champion, middleweight champion.
But Bill Lustig then went on to have cameos in 2 of Sam Raimi's subsequent movies to this, Darkman and Army of Darkness. The UK version of Maniac Cop had a cut in it for the scene where we see Robert Zadar's character getting his face sliced open with a razor in the nudie shower scene flashback in the film. Now that exact same scene is in Maniac Cop 2, and it was left uncensored in the Maniac Cop 2, which would have come out maybe 2 years later. So the BBFC obviously either had relaxed or they had just let that one slip them by, I don't know. But they had no trouble with the MPAA on either of the first 2 Maniac Cop films. Both were passed with no cuts and an R rating. And I think that's all I have. It had a limited theatrical release, but did all of its financial business on home video, where apparently it was a big hit. I'm pretty sure it went straight to video over here.
The other thing I forgot to say, one of the things that kind of feels like the first half of the film set up as a whodunit. It's kind of, so if you watch it the first time, you're watching it thinking literally who done it, and then to pull the thing, it's just the random person, not random, but it's the Maniac Cop who revealed halfway through or 2/3 of the way through. It feels that's why I think if it was written in 4 days, it sounds like a bit of a rush job. And also, as much as I like Larry Cohen, the fact is that if he says poor direction, I think actually more for me the film where it falls down is on the script rather than the direction. I think the film zips along at a nice pace. I don't think for me, I don't see there's a problem with it. But obviously they fell out. But just in the same way as that Wes Craven, when he did Nightmare on Elm Street, he kind of wanted that slice of the kind of the slasher movie pie. And Larry Cohen was pretty open about the fact that he wanted to make a kind of commercial slasher movie that would be kind of basically another franchise. Is exactly what he got. So, I mean, the film, as you mentioned, it was actually going to not bombed at the box office, but it didn't do particularly well. I mean, it was made for sort of, we say, between 1 and 1.5 million, and it made domestically about 671,000. But like a lot of these films, that the ones that go onto these big franchises on video, films like we've been looking to like the films like Poison Ivy and for From Hell movies, and a lot of them just kind of bombed at the box office, but just made huge amounts of dollar at home video. So this was another one, which is why obviously we got the straight to kind of straight to video sequels. Another one, of course, is The Stepfather, which again I didn't realize it was a box office bomb when it came out. So this was the real time. I mean, obviously video had been around a long time, but this kind of late 80s was where it really was kind of seen to be where you could make these films that weren't theatrically successful, could make a lot of money, and actually spawn franchises. So so a lot of the reviews were saying, I mean, they were kind of mixed. I'll just read a couple of bits from them. There was a review from The Spectator was basically sneered at the film and said it was so blatant that they were trying to set up a slash franchise that they're surprised they didn't put a number in front of it, i.e. Maniac Cop 1, to suggest exactly what they were doing. But another one said the usually reliable Richard Roundtree not only phoned in his performance, but must have got the wrong number. Which I thought was quite funny. But they also said that sometimes there needs to be this kind of mismatch when the critics are looking at this, are saying that that Larry Cohen was known for writing kind of fairly comedic scripts, or certainly satirical ones, and saying that William Lustig seemed to have not got the message and directed it straight, and there's this kind of mismatch. But it seems like they were pretty much on the same page. William Lustig said when he first heard the title Maniac Cop, he laughed his head off. Whereas what else do we have? Rob Salem and Toronto Star, he said that basically they got exactly what Larry Cohen wanted, and he said they've given us Jason Voorhees with a badge, which I think is kind of fair approximation, especially considering the whole zombie thing. And this is a couple of years after Jason Lives, wasn't it? So having kind of an undead slasher was certainly not something necessarily new. The last bit I'll say is Marilyn Riccio from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette praised Atkins' performance, and said because he was actually apparently from Pittsburgh, and said the film has decent special effects with a couple of gory killings. It also has some moments of genuine terror, but sloppy editing and an utter lack of logic undermines the movie. And the last thing I'll say, actually, the Big Apple's Daily News Phantom of the Movies, which I'm not sure if that person's still around. It's obviously somebody writing under a pseudonym, says, despite its modest budget and occasionally slapdash direction, of the genre flicks currently unspooling, Maniac Cop easily ranks amongst the finest. So I'm glad we covered this finally, and I'm kind of looking forward to covering Maniac Cop 2 in the not too distant future. So anything, Austin, you want to say to kind of wind this coverage to the main feature up?
Yeah, there were just two things that I thought of, and one I kind of already said, which is just echoing what Erik said earlier. This really does have a 10 to Midnight feel to it, which is another one of my favorites, and it's another one that's heavy in the police procedural. And then in the sequel, well, we talked about how the stunts in this are kind of nuts, and in the second one I feel like they even go a little bit more insane. And watching all three of them the past couple of days, the stunts kind of reminded me of a Deadbeat by Dawn. I don't know if you guys ever seen that, but it's like an old 80s action film directed by Jim Van Bieber, but just like these kind of like reckless stunts where you can tell that they were actually doing some really dangerous things. Like there's one where in the second one, Claudia Christian is hanging off of a car and just like weaving through traffic for a long time.
So was that actually Bruce Campbell in that stunt at the end?
It looked like it. I don't know how they did that, but it looked really good.
Because we're used to seeing kind of like in Friday 13th Part 4 is the famous one, isn't it? When Jason Paul throws that woman through the window and it's like a stuntman is twice the size of her in a wig flying, and it's fairly obvious usually, isn't it, when they're using stunt people. It looked like Bruce Campbell. It's funny, I watched it again. It looked like Bruce Campbell when they first flies off, and then when it cuts back to him, it looks like someone's different. So whether they did it a couple of times, I don't know. But yeah, I kind of doubt they would get away with that kind of stunt these days, would they?
Mm.
So, what was the consensus, Joseph, on the group on this one?
I figured we'd get a decent amount of feedback on this one, but talk about a black hole. We only had 5 people manage to comment. I don't know if it's apathy or the algorithm, but it's depressing. But here's the top 3 anyway. The casting makes this a B-movie royal gem. Tom Atkins, Bruce Campbell, Richard Roundtree, and Robert Zadar's striking facial features make for one memorable crazy cop. I also get a kick out of Shireen North as a crippled, embittered policewoman. Overall, Maniac Cop is an intriguing slasher gem. From Sean Guerrero. Thank you, Sean. I love Maniac Cop. As a kid, I used to have a VHS of 1 and 2 on the same tape and would watch it on a loop. Really great atmosphere, great cast, and the score is outstanding. That's from Rob Saunders. And finally, have always enjoyed this one. In fact, the entire trilogy is quite enjoyable. Been hoping y'all would eventually cover it. Great cast, great score, great stunts. Lustig and Cohen, Atkins and Campbell. A healthy horror pedigree. And that's from Andrew Ray.
Well, I kind of guess that we come to that point of the podcast, haven't we? Where there's no going back.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
It's my joke of the week. It's so great and fantastic.
What do you call an actor who makes alcoholic soup? Bruce Campbell's. Bruce Campbell's. Bruce. Because you brew alcohol.
God,
and then Campbell's soup. Bruce Campbell's.
See, that would work better, but it doesn't. I was thinking more about you brew a cup of tea.
No, you brew beer.
Hey, Justin, bully Erik for a while so he'll have a maniac strop.
I'm going to throw at you a maniac plop if you're not careful.
Well, unfortunately, there's no sad. You could drop in a sad trombone there, Joseph. I think it warrants one.
You can put in a nice standing ovation moment.
A little bit behind the scenes is that Erik, when we on the private group chats, Erik's always he basically, every time he makes a joke or says something mean, he sends all these gifts of people standing up applauding.
I think we've all done that at least once.
Yeah, Joseph does that too.
Yeah, but Erik does it all the time. And not only one, it's about 10 of them. And then he's put lols, about 400 lols down.
And then he hearts his own replies.
Yeah, well...
So anyway, that's another glimpse behind the dirty curtain of the Hysteria Continues. So
yes,
right. Well, should we have a little chat about what we've been watching recently? We'll probably have to keep a few back because obviously it's been a couple of months. But Austin, is there anything you've seen you want to tell us about?
I've been listening to you guys for so long. You guys have been on the air for so long that I feel like I've heard you mention so many horror films, like slashers and others, and I always try to watch things before I come on that I'm curious if you have seen or if you have any thoughts on. So I just want to run through some kind of quickly. I'll go in detail on a few of them, but I just want to see if you guys have any opinions on any of these. Couple I checked out were The Pool.
Have we covered that yet?
Let me have a look.
I think The Pool is probably one of the best of the post-Scream slasher movies, international slasher movies. I think it's a lot of fun. Certainly better than the post-Scream slasher movie, which I reviewed recently for Hysteria Lives, which I'll talk about.
Couple others, The Night Brings Charlie, slasher movie from 1990, where they chopping off people's heads, and also Gutter Balls, which was definitely something.
Oh, Joe hates that movie.
If it ever gets picked for the show, I'm going to be gone for that fucking episode.
Yeah, I don't think that one's going to get picked. But The Night Brings Charlie was, I haven't seen that for 20 odd years, but that was, that's not out on Blu-ray yet, is it? It's kind of one of those ones that's kind of lost in the limbo somewhere.
Neither is The Pool.
I haven't seen Night Brings Charlie or Gutter Balls.
No, well, Gutter Balls, I remember that Gutter Balls is terrible. It's kind of a really ugly movie, isn't it?
It's a hateful movie. I despise that movie.
So probably quite a fun one for us to watch at some point.
I'll kill you.
So, Austin, was there anything else, or did you have any thoughts on The Night Brings Charlie?
It was all right. It was. I want to see it in high definition. Honestly, it looked really, really crappy. Kind of like when I tried watching Blood Song. Some of them I just don't have. There's just not great copies available. It's hard to see, and so I don't know.
It does make it really does change things when you actually see a proper cleaned up version. It's one of the ones I think Eric's going to possibly talk about, an Italian film that I guess in another podcast for where Eric's watched as well. And I started watching the VHS copy, and then I actually found I had the Blu-ray somewhere. Anyway, I put that on, and it was kind of the difference of night and day. So actually seeing some of those films are cleaned up and how they're meant to look, it does kind of add to the thing. Although some films I don't think it could rescue. It like Gutter Balls. I don't think I'd really putting that on Ultra HD isn't really going to add anything to that. I don't think. But anything else, Austin?
I'm gonna go really quick on a few of them. Last Cannibal World, aka Jungle Holocaust, Ruggero Deodato. I actually love this movie. I like it way more than Cannibal Holocaust, but it was still pretty repulsive to watch for all the animal torture, and probably won't be watching it again anytime soon. I caught Demon Warp, which is from the director of New Year's Evil. It's a zombie alien death cult Bigfoot slasher movie. So that was pretty great. Caught a movie called Evolver from 1995, directed by Mark Rossman, who did The House in Sorority Row. It's basically Chopping Mall, but a kid wins a video game competition, and his prize is a robot that basically plays a real-life version of the video game with him, but of course the robot ends up being evil.
I've not heard of that one before.
All right, two more. Eyewitness from 1970, John Huff. It's a British film starring Mark Lester from Oliver, Lionel Jeffries, Susan George. It's about this kid that witnesses a political assassination. He witnesses the shooter, and then the police come after him. Really, really suspenseful, really dark for 1970. They kill at least one kid in that movie, which is you just don't see that. But 1970 British film, I was shocked. So, not very gory, but very implied violence, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like you can kind of fill in the blanks. And the last one that I really want to mention, because I know you guys love those From Hell movies. I don't even know where I found this movie, but it's called The Maddening from 1996.
Oh, Burt Reynolds. Yeah, I love that movie.
Okay, so you guys know, I mean, Burt Reynolds, Andrew Dickinson, Mia Sara, Sloane Peterson from Ferris Bueller, directed by Danny Huston. But yeah, so that movie is crazy. It's about a mom and daughter that the mom gets into a fight with the husband, takes the daughter, goes to her sister's, has car trouble at a gas station. Burt Reynolds says, "Let me help you out. I'll fix it. Come back with me." And turns out he has a young daughter and a wife played by Dickinson, and she had a sister who lived with them with another daughter, and they supposedly ran away. So Burt Reynolds keeps this mom and daughter there in order to fill that gap, because his wife has gone insane and wants to believe that these are her actual sister and niece. So crazy film. It's got rape, abuse, infanticide, extreme depression leading to psychosis. The little girl in this film is kind of tortured by the crazy couple's like slightly older little girl, and she has a noose around her neck and carries her around the house by like pulling on her neck. It's really messed up. It made me feel like taking a shower when I was done watching it. It was a lot.
Excellent. Well, I'm kind of, The Maddening's on my list for films to watch. I haven't seen it yet. I've had trouble finding it, but I'm sure I'll track it down at some point. But excellent. Well, thank you. Thank you, Austin. So, Nathan, how about you? What have you been watching?
I'm not going to, I guess, talk about too many. I can spread them out over the next few episodes. I did watch Megan 2.0. I loved the first one. I thought it was a lot of fun. It's basically just the whole killer doll, killing people. The doll from hell, Justin, if you will. But the sequel goes in a completely different direction. They almost make her into like a an anti-hero because there's basically a robot worse than her, and they kind of need her help to stop this other robot. It's definitely played for laughs, much more than the first one, really. To me, this one was pretty much all comedy. People die, but it feels like a horror comedy that's heavier on the comedy than the horror
I've
aspect.
heard it described as like the AI John Wick.
I could see that. There's a lot of action in it, a lot of fights between the robots. And they're a lot of fun. I was never bored. I thought it was really entertaining all the way through. I think the problem that we have is that a lot of people didn't like that it went in such a totally different direction than the first one. I think that it threw people off. I think that's why it didn't do as well at the box office. But yeah, I still really enjoyed it. It's like I said, just really entertaining. So to me, it's worth the watch. Just know what you're in for before you go into it and watch it, I'd say.
Is anyone else? I've not seen it, but that did put me off.
I loved it. As Nathan said, it goes in a different direction. It's more of a comedy, more of sci-fi elements. It reminded me of the transition from Happy Death Day to Happy Death Day to You, which was kind of it almost feels like a different kind of genre, the sequel. But I thought it was really entertaining, very funny, lots of action, very silly. Maybe goes on a bit long because it's just under 2 hours, I think. But other than that, I really loved it. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. And anything else, Nathan?
No, I'm gonna just stick with that one for now.
Okay. Joseph, how about you?
Well, Nathan and I went to see the Texas Chainsaw Massacre on the big screen about a month or so back, maybe 2 months ago. I don't remember, but I'm not really going to talk about it. But man, talk about a great experience. The crowd was perfect. Seeing it on the big screen just is kind of opened my heart back up to that film. I loved seeing it on the big screen. But the only other movie I've seen that I'm going to talk about is Night of the Reaper. I don't know what the budget for this movie was, but they certainly did not waste a single cent with the time period detail. It wisely goes for these ugly browns and beiges and uses props from both the 70s and the 80s to sort of mask the actual year. Though that RoboCop poster that's hanging in the kid's bedroom, it dates it to at least 1970 or 1987 at the earliest. I think they did a fantastic job with the set design, probably one of the best I've seen since... I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there's a kind of a low budget shot on video movie called WNUF Halloween Special. I thought that movie did a very good job of recreating the 80s. This one kind of matches that in my mind. But man, this movie fucking sucks if you value characters, and its biggest sin is intentionally keeping you in the dark on who they are as people, because the silly twist would not work if you knew even a shred about their personalities. And I know I'm probably the only slasher fan in the world who puts characters above the actual slashing, but I'm not totally sure I would even call this a slasher, to be honest. Like I said, the twist itself, I don't necessarily have a problem with. It actually reminded me of a movie for which we did a commentary not too long ago. No spoilers beyond that. But like I said, it would not work if we actually knew who the characters were. And, to me, if you have to sacrifice characterization to sell a plot twist, you failed. I found the characters so poorly drawn and forgettable that when they revealed who the killer was, I literally screamed out, "Who the fuck was that?" And then the further manipulation is that when the final girl is giving this droning speech about justice and empowerment, and I'm thinking, cool, this would sound so much better coming from someone who wasn't written to essentially, aid a plot twist and nothing else. So, for me, it's well made. It looks incredible. And, if characterization isn't necessarily a component that sways you either way, I think you're going to have some fun with this. But I found the characters, sorely lacking, in the script, frankly, to be very lousy, if I'm honest. I did not like this movie. Or I didn't like enough of it to recommend it.
Well, has anyone else seen it?
Is that Tim Ritter?
No, it's new.
It's new. It's 2025. It's Brandon Christensen. I quite liked it. Like the character who does turn out to be the killer does appear earlier on in
I'd completely forgotten because they were there for like 2 seconds.
Yeah, they're only in a well. This is probably getting into spoiler territory, but I kind of enjoyed it. I agree. The period detail was good because I think you said like years and years ago that your memories of the 80s were browns and beiges, and it not being this sort of Technicolor neon thing that people look back on as it being. And this is the 80s I remember, which is like brown carpets and brown curtains and brown furniture. And I thought that was really good. The twist, there's a sort of a clue to the ending that I kind of saw coming, but again, I won't go into details about it. But I can see why some people might think the final half hour is kind of clunky, but I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it's an outstanding piece of cinema or anything, but I did enjoy it.
What about you, Nathan? Did you see it?
No, I haven't had a chance to check it out yet, but I want to. I will.
I mean, I kind of, for me, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was it set itself up as one thing, but took a kind of a twist halfway through and turned it into something else, which I kind of appreciated. I mean, I think the period detail was so spot on because a lot of those kind of retro 80s slasher movies, everyone's got kind of rah-rah skirts and looked like they always used to say in the 60s, it was kind of like, if it all happened in Carnaby Street, and everyone remembers the 60s as being like mod fashions and stuff like that, but 98% of the rest of the UK was just kind of like basically still kind of like down mines and sort of, everyone was wearing cloth caps and stuff like that. So it's a bit like in the 80s that it was still very much a hangover from the 70s, and that's what this got exactly right. So I got that kind of small town, sort of slightly depressed small town thing. Really did really well, but I just didn't see the twist coming, and I think it was handled really well. So I kind of have an opposite opinion to Joseph, but then that's fine, isn't it? We still live in a free country, don't we?
We don't. I don't know if we do or not. But like I said, like the movie looks great, and I think people would like this. And like I said, I really love that period detail, but I look for characterization first and foremost, and I just felt they bumbled it badly here. So that's don't take my opinion as gospel. You go into it as for your own sake. But yeah.
Well, it's streaming on Shudder, which is where I saw it. So if you do want to check it out, I'll watch it on there. So is there anything else, Joseph?
God, I asked you guys if we've seen anything, and I don't remember, but I don't think there is. So no.
Well, you did mention I know what you did last summer, didn't you? Because we'd all seen it.
It was me. I seen it since I saw it shortly after we recorded our last episode. So it's been a while. It must be about 7 or 8 weeks ago since I saw it.
Hang on, Eric. Nathan, have you seen it?
Yeah, I saw it, but I can't remember if I talked about it last time or not. I can't remember.
And Austin, have you seen it?
I have, yeah.
Do we want to put a spoiler warning for people who are watching the episode if we want to talk about it? Because it's very ludicrous.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah. I was kind of with it at the start. I thought the film, my overall opinion on the film is a big meh. I didn't think it was... I thought the horror elements were very tepid, and I thought it didn't get as stupid or as bad in the second half as I was expecting it to from what I'd heard from you guys. It was ludicrous, but not so ludicrous that it became entertaining. I just felt the film dragged a lot, even though, as I said, that I was kind of with it in the setup. The characters were all fairly interesting. There was a moment that bugged me, which is when the accident happens, the person who dies grabs one of the guy's jumpers and it comes off and it goes over the cliff in the car holding on to this guy's jumper, and I was going to be, okay, that's a clue to his identity, but then it's never mentioned ever again. It's like, surely they could have traced who owned that jumper that was in the hands of the person who died.
Like the Maniac Cop phone calls, never mentioned again.
It is. It's the Maniac Cop phone call. As for the ending, you see, I feel like a hypocrite saying this because I never have an issue with a film that takes a character that was a good guy in the original versions of the movies and then turns him into a bad guy. But it did bother me on this occasion because, spoiler alert, it turns out that Freddie Prinze Jr.'s character is one of two killers in this film. And, he was such a goody two-shoes in the first two movies that... there was actually one actually, it just popped into my head. One brilliant line in the movie that I thought was, somebody said, why don't we all head off to the Bahamas and just escape all this madness? And Freddie Prinze Jr. goes, I can't go into it now, but that's a bad idea, which I thought was great fun, a nice nod to the sequel. But yeah, the idea of making him the killer and his reasons for it, I thought was stupid, but not stupid enough to rescue the second half of the movie, which I found really plodding.
I was wondering what his motive was. He didn't really seem to have one.
No, just that they'd been forgotten or something. Was that his motive?
Well, it was because he was kind of felt sorry for the woman who worked at his bar whose boyfriend was killed. So he thought, well, I'll tell you what, I'll go above and beyond to manage a sort of employee relationship, and I'm going to, instead of giving you a bonus this year, I'm going to kill all these random people who've got nothing to do with what happened to your boyfriends. That was basically it, wasn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, it was very, very silly. And then of course there's a coda at the end where Brandy comes back, and it looks like Brandy and not Sarah Michelle Gellar, the other double-barreled Jennifer Love Hewitt. Jennifer Love Hewitt are going to team up or something and go.
Well, they might have done if the film hadn't bombed at the box office.
Yeah. So now that I'm talking about it, there are actually bits of it I did like. I mean, I did like having the legacy characters back. Even Sarah Michelle Gellar returns in a dream sequence. I just thought the film was too long. I thought the horror there was no intensity to it or anything, and I just thought the film was way too long.
It was just kind of, now we got into spoiler territory. It just didn't make any sense at all. The Freddie Prinze Jr. thing bugged me because not that I mind about having those kind of twists, but it just didn't make any sense. There's no reason why he would have done any of that unless he'd gone completely mad. And also I thought they made such a fuss about bringing back Jennifer Love Hewitt, and she was terrible in it.
Not so much that she was terrible, she's just barely in it. So why bring her back at all?
Well, she's barely in it. Well, she's not necessarily terrible, but the fact is that it kind of, from what I've read about it, they said that she was only going to do a cameo, and she said that she basically said, I'll only do it if you give me a larger role in it, is my understanding. It's kind of paraphrasing it. But it was kind of the first third of the film looked like it was going to be a proper legacy sequel and do the things right. It kind of interesting characters, like Erik was saying, and then it just kind of seemed to just go off. It just kind of, when the twist happened and those revelations, it just, everything just, rather than going in the best way batshit crazy, like I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, when it goes into, builds up a head of steam, but this just kind of went from kind of one kind of limpish set piece to another without really, wowing. I mean, even the scene where one of the characters is menaced when in the graveyard. Everything was it just wasn't done. Basically, you had this fisherman characters suddenly appearing out of nowhere, waving a hook around and then vanishing. There was no real threat to it. And even that one character with a guy who was drunk and he walked up to get something, and there's a fisherman stood right there in the background and he doesn't even see him. It's just stuff like that just made, I don't know, it just wasn't particularly well made, I didn't think.
See, I actually kind of like the movie myself. It's not good, but I think after about the 20-minute mark, I decided, I should watch this as a bad movie because it's obviously turning out to be a bad movie. And I think that's why it worked for me.
Austin, what were your thoughts on that?
I love the scene with Jennifer Love Hewitt at the end where she has to do the super forced, what are you waiting for?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I know.
awful.
Eye roll. Yeah.
I shivered in my seat at the theater. I was like, oh. It was okay. I love all the Scream movies. Yeah, all the Scream movies, except for the third one. But I never got really into Urban Legend or I Know You Did Last Summer. I watch them all the time because I keep thinking that I'm going to one day it's going to click for me, because that happens sometimes. And it just has not happened for me. I don't hate either one of them. It's just not my favorite. So I went in with low expectations, and I could say it was about what I was expecting, and it was enjoyable. I haven't returned to it since I saw it a few months ago, but you could do worse.
I loved it. I loved every single ludicrous second of that movie. There is nothing about it I disliked. Nothing. I mean, I was totally on board with everything, every ridiculous plot point, even down to the, insane killer reveal that we've already talked about. Again, like you guys said, it makes absolutely zero sense that he would do this. And I actually do think it's interesting to have him as the killer, but If they were going to try to make it more serious, probably give him a different motive, maybe different motivation for why he's doing it. Because I didn't really buy this, but I also didn't care because I thought it was so much fun. And I'm very disappointed that we may not get that Jennifer Love Hewitt Brandy team up for another one, because I would watch that in a nanosecond.
But it might happen. You never know.
Yeah.
Erik, is anything else?
Yes, I also watched, I saw Alien Earth. I watched all 8 episodes of Alien Earth, the series, which I'm a big Alien fan, as you guys know. It's one of my favorite franchises. I love all the movies, except possibly Alien vs. Predator Requiem is the only one I wouldn't be that mad on. But the series, I thought, started out really well. But then as it progressed, it did what I thought it would probably do, which is push the aliens to the background. And they very much are in the background for the final 2 or 3 episodes. It's kind of more a movie about these synthetic bodies inhabited by childlike minds that are at loggerheads with the people who have been, quote, invented them or created them. And there happens to be an alien running around the background that's causing a bit of a nuisance, but that's kind of it. So, I mean, I thought it was enjoyable enough. I was really into it for the first 3 episodes or so, and then kind of the final 5 episodes felt less and less alien-like and more maybe sort of Blade Runner-ish or something. I'm not sure. But overall, I thought, they did a good job. There is a huge amount of stupid character action in it, where characters who are supposed to be these, I imagine, top-level scientists who are doing these studies of alien life on different planets, and they have alien specimens in jars that they just leave open, or they put precariously on a ledge that falls off, and really, really stupid things, leaving doors to sort of highly dangerous places unlocked, that type of thing. Which is kind of fun, I suppose, but the series does take itself very, very seriously a lot of the time, so it kind of stands out when the characters are doing that type of stuff. But it looks great. It does capture the look of the first Alien movie really good. Like, some of the interiors of the spaceships are practically identical, and it's good on that level. But, and this is what my fear for the Friday the 13th series as well, is that, I know they have to pad out 8 hours of television with something more than just aliens running around killing people. So it kind of delivered what I expected. It's just that I thought the promise of the opening episode wasn't fulfilled for me, because it looked like it was going to be full on sort of alien action, whereas it ended up being more about these troubled youths who have their minds transplanted into cyborg bodies and stuff, which itself was quite interesting, I suppose, but wasn't what I wanted really.
I watched it and I liked it for the most part, but to be honest, I kind of find the pretentious twaddle of Prometheus and those other later Alien films a bit of a chore. It's very chin strokey and a bit sort of, it's not what I want from a Alien movie. So this kind of did give it to some point, but like you, I thought that it kind of towards the end when it sidelined the aliens, it's a bit like they did with The Walking Dead. It was just kind of, rather than The Walking Dead, the zombies being the threat, it was the humans being the threat. Who are the real monsters? I think that was even what one of the episodes was called, sort of. And again, you can't, how many times can you just repeat the same thing of just having aliens breaking out, which of course they do in this. No big spoiler alert. It's, but I liked the fact they had all these different aliens in it as well. It wasn't just the xenomorphs, and I liked the eyeball with legs that would sort of basically get into people's heads or animals' heads and control them. But I kind of. I would watch the second season of it. I enjoyed it.
So would I. Yeah,
I enjoyed it, and it looks incredible. As far as it looks like, everyone looks like a $100 million movie. It's amazing how much money they're throwing at it. But I was kind of I thought the whole Peter Pan thing was a little bit kind of heavy-handed. All of that stuff about the kind of the children being the lost boys and all that kind of, just felt a little heavy-handed. But yeah, I kind of enjoyed it, but I would have liked to have seen it possibly a little bit more horror heavy than it was. So anything else, Erik? I know you saw.
Yeah, just one more thing before we got onto that one that we both saw. I saw the Conjuring Last Rites as well, which is 2 hours and 15 minutes, and it is boring. I really want to like the Conjuring series a lot, because the idea, like ghosts and haunted houses, I think have so much potential to be really fun and really scary. And every time I watch a Conjuring movie, it just fumbles the ball, because all it is really long stretches of characters chatting, blah, 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 and then occasionally a really loud jump scare. And that's kind of it. And it's doing that for 2 hours and 15 minutes in this movie. It's set in 1986, so the period detail in this is really quite good, actually, to rival Night of the Reaper. But just the problem is that with a lot of the Conjuring universe movies, The Nun, all of them, there's no real threat. I mean, the ghosts in it aren't really violent. They just appear and shout at you and then disappear, and that's the kind of the extent of their menace.
Could you do that between the hours of 9 and 5 while I sleep, and then you can have run of the house after that? Big threat. Yeah.
So you have like these sort of 10-second moments, maybe 4 or 5 of them throughout a 135-minute movie or whatever it is, and it's just no. So the other one I saw was this Italian 1988, is it 86, 88 movie?
88, I think. Yeah, late 80s. Yeah.
Called Blood Delirium, which I had, but I hadn't watched yet. And it's quite something. It starts off with a woman setting a table for her boyfriend is arriving, but she's setting the table topless. And she plays her answering machine, and she gets a voice message from the future from her doppelganger, or is it her? I think it's her doppelganger sending her a voice from the future. Anyway, none of this makes any sense. She then goes to this big lush castle where, who's the lead actor again in it?
Oh, John Philip Law.
John Philip Law is this painter, and he's looking for the ultimate colour to express anguish or something, and it turns out to be human blood. And it's just the strangest movie I've ever seen. It's like, it's at times it's kind of been art house, but for the most part it's one of those film mirage type late 80s Italian movies with bad dubbing and very, very strange plot twists and things in it. What did you think? I mean, I thought it was hugely entertaining. I'm not sure it's something I'd return to too often.
Well, I had heard of the movie, but I was invited to guest on Caliber 9 from Outer Space, as another podcast definitely worth checking out. And this is one of the films that they suggested. And I hadn't seen it before, but it was kind of right on my street because it is just absolutely batshit crazy. If you like those kind of 80s Italian movies where everyone is just completely off their head on whatever, I don't know what it is, but it's kind of almost like a remake of Joe D'Amato's Beyond the Darkness or Blue Omega. So there's got necrophilia, and you've got it's kind of basically an updating of the old Gothic, the Ricardo Frida kind of type movies, but with a lot more minge and blood and gore.
There's a bit in it where that's at the start, John Philip Law's wife dies of cancer or something, and her body is in an open casket at the church, and he goes up to play the organ, and whilst he has his back turned, his butler starts shagging the corpse in the coffin, and it's like, wow.
But he was in love with her as well.
He was in love with her, in fairness, so it's actually quite romantic when you think about it.
But the topless woman is also her exact double, and she ends up there. My favourite scene in the whole movie, without spoiling it, is she's walking around like a sort of like some heroine from a Gothic Italian movie from the 60s. I think she's even got a candlestick. She walks into the room, and someone throws a stuffed eagle at her, which is this bird that's just completely stuffed. It's not, and she does that whole thing. You know when people pretend they're being attacked by a cat or something, and it's really a stuffed puppet, and they're holding to their neck, and they're doing this. So it throws this stuffed eagle, doesn't move at all, and then it cuts to what looks like a sparrow flying out the window. This bird is about 20 times smaller than this stuffed eagle that she's been wrestling with. And the movie ends, I can't really spoil it because it ends with her being rescued by her boyfriend or husband, who flies in on the tiniest helicopter, and they fly off.
Smallest helicopter.
Yeah. And they're both naked, but they put on very very short coats and get into this helicopter and then fly off. So it's completely it's basically John Philip Law. Apparently, I was doing looking some background. Apparently, his agent, when he found out he'd done this movie, said, "What the fuck have you done that for?" Because it was kind of such a terrible movie. But it is a lot of fun. If you've got a soft spot for bad Italian horror movies and batshit late 80s Italian horror movies, then it's definitely worth a watch. But yes, excellent. Anything else, Erik?
Nope, that was it.
Okay, well, let's rattle through because I know we've been talking for quite a while now. But just a couple I've reviewed recently of Hysteria Lives. One's Hatchet Man from 2003, which was recommended to me as a post-Scream slasher. Really, as kind of like that post-Scream cycle was coming to an end, and this is kind of probably one of the worst ones out there. But it's kind of almost like a remake of Strip to Kill, the Cat Shea movie, but with the budget, with Strip to Kill was a very high budget movie, being a Roger Corman movie, but this has got like the budget of basically you could buy two kind of Kit Kats for it, I think, and someone's murdering strippers or exotic dancers at a club and wearing this with a hatchet and wearing this kind of rubber mask. So it basically does that. So it does the usual kind of stripper style slasher movies where basically bras ping off all the time. So half the movie's people dancing on stage and the other half is people being killed with a hatchet. But it did have my favorite thing in it was the fact that it was the only slasher movie I think I've ever seen where the person, the killer, is kind of unmasked or out as being the killer by a cocktail making mishap, which I thought was quite funny.
Girly cocktail.
It could have. I think it might have been a girly cocktail actually, but and also it's funny. It's kind of the killer chasing the final girl, and the killer's been stabbed in the leg, I think, and so they're dragging the leg behind them like Igor from the old monster movies. So she's kind of running really slowly, and this killer's trying to chase after, dragging his leg behind him. So it's just completely ridiculous. But it's okay. It's quite fun, but really stupid. But the other one I saw was something that was recommended to me from 1971 called The Night Visitor, which has got Max von Sydow, who was Father Merrin in The Exorcist. This is kind of the British-Swedish kind of, I know American-Swedish, is produced by Mel Ferrer, and originally it was supposed to star Christopher Lee, and it's kind of this kind of Swedish, set in Sweden, and it's kind of almost like a folklore parable where you've got this guy. It's kind of basically a locked room mystery where this guy he's put in an asylum, which is a Gothic castle, for a murder he didn't commit. And what he does is he escapes each night from the asylum and goes and kills the people who conspire to put him away. And then he goes back afterwards and gets back into his room, and then no one can work out how he escapes. So I won't give away how that happens, but it's got some like proto-slasher leanings, the scenes where he kind of menaces a couple people with an axe, but it's basically it's people who were Max von Sydow and Liv Ullmann who were kind of involved with the Ingmar Bergman. So it's kind of like, if you can imagine Ingmar Bergman made a slasher movie, it's really slowly paced, but it's quite hypnotic.
I'm intrigued to know if he can escape from his room every night. Why doesn't he just escape?
Yes, well, you'd have to see the film to see it, but it's kind of an interesting film. But it is very, very, very slow, methodical, even for an early 70s movie. It like moves like molasses, but it is something quite hypnotic about it. So if that's your jam, then check that out. But thank you, Austin. That's been as usual, an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
What are we covering next time, Joseph? I'm intrigued, as it's your choice.
It's another listener pick. We will be discussing slashers from 2001, a.k.a. $LA, $HER, $.
Yeah, a lot of dollar symbols in that.
A lot of dollar symbols. Okay, that's one I have seen not that long ago, so that'll be a fun one to talk about. So yes. And Austin, is there anything you want to tell us about your up to? Is anything?
No, I mean, just follow me on Letterboxd, AMS12C. I'm always searching out these weird films, and like The Night Stalkers just epitomizes like the kind of stuff I look for. So I'm always trying to find the rare, weird stuff.
On your hat, sorry. What's it say on your hat, Austin?
The Boogeyman.
Yeah, that. I can't read it.
Oh, the Boogeyman. What's it say under the rim?
Halloween.
Eric's always trying to see what's under men's rims.
As soon as I said the word rim, I said, oh, Justin's going to have something clever to say.
So, okay. Well, what are we playing out with, Joseph? No, whose choice was this?
Mine.
No, it's yours, Austin's. Oh, it's yours, but who's...
Well, it's Austin's either. I haven't thought about a song, so Austin, can you think of a song to play out with?
No, but there is a theme song for Maniac Cop 2 at the end that is just awful early 90s hip-hop.
Okay, that'll do.
let's play out with that. So yeah, okay. Anyway, so it's welcome back from us for Hysteria Continues. So we'll be back next time for slashers. So so thank you for listening, and say goodbye to the good people. So goodbye till next time.
Bye.
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 Bye.